Sky Cricket podcast returns, and Nas, you've just returned from India, where you've spent a few days filming to get a bit of content ahead of our series against India. How was your trip? How was the content?
Yeah, it was good, actually. I really enjoyed it. We flew out to Mumbai and then took the 2.5-hour journey up to Ambi Valley. It's on the road out to Pune from Mumbai. Lovely little spot. And the reason I was there was that KL Rahul and Ben Stokes were doing a shoot for 2 or 3 days for Red Bull, one of their sponsors. And it was very, very enjoyable. They did some unbelievable stuff, which will come out eventually. But it gave us an opportunity to sit down with KL. He's been doing very well. Obviously, we were in the Champions Trophy, where he was brilliant for India. And he's also made a very good start to the IPL. He just flown in from an IPL game, did the shoot, and flew out to another IPL game. And then a long sit-down interview with Ben Stokes.
Yeah. How was he? Was he looking fit, first of all?
Yeah, looking very trim, to be honest. You know what Ben's like when he's had this period to recover. He pushes it to the extreme. So he was looking very trim, very fit. And we discussed all things injury, all things recovery, and looking forward to a very important 9 months ahead for him and the team.
Do you get the sense he's going to play against Zimbabwe? I mean, that test squad is going to be announced Friday, and he won't have had any cricket before then.
Well, I got the sense that his recovery was going well, which, means that it'd be surprising if he didn't play. I'm not saying he's going to use that game on the path to recovery, because it's a test match against Zimbabwe. They haven't been over here for 22 years. They've just recently won a game in Bangladesh, and Stokes on interview said, we will give them the respect they deserve. So I think that's when he will come back. We'll have to wait and see. But he looked trim. He looked ready to go. He talked about how at times, like in the Pakistan series, he was trying to play catch up. He was pushing himself. We were there for the first test match, and he was trying to get ready for the second test match. And he pushed it, that there were time constraints. Whereas with this recovery, he says there's been less time constraints. So he has been able to just get the right fitness routine going for bowling in particular. So he looked ready to go. Like I say, an hugely important 9 months or so. That game against Zimbabwe, then 2 iconic series, India at home, and then the Ashes. And even though he didn't want to talk too much about the Ashes, because he wants to give every game the attention it deserves, he realizes that, that's what him, Key, McCullum have been planning for. That's when they came in on the back of another disastrous away Ashes series. And he wants to put that right.
And speaking of England captains, Nat Sciver-Brunt has been appointed as captain to the women's team. I mean, we had Charlotte Edwards on 2 or 3 podcasts ago. I can't quite remember. But given that she said she wanted one captain and a player, who's across formats, multi-format player, that rather limited her options. And it seems like Nat Sciver-Brunt is the obvious choice.
Yeah, took the words out of my mouth there, really. Yeah, the obvious choice, plays across formats. And also they hadn't done too much succession planning, because Heather Knight had been, so intrinsically linked with England cricket and done it so well for so many years that they hadn't. Someone like Charlie Dean has not had the exposure to come in and suddenly jump the queue and become England captain. Nat Sciver-Brunt knows Charlotte Edwards very well. They've worked together with the Mumbai Indians. She's been vice captain for four years now, something like that. She's done 4 years of Trent Rocket's captaincy. She's one of the best players in the world. That would be the only concern, similar with Stokes or Botham or Flintoff, or whenever you make your all-rounder a captain. She's the best batter in the side, bowler. She's a fielder. She's just had a birth of a first son, so a lot on her plate and a lot to do as well. But I think she's the right choice, and her and Charlotte have got to guide England into a direction where they improve, not just in the Ashes, but also they've got a World Cup coming up in the autumn, and they've been disappointing recently in World Cups. So it's something they'll want to put right.
Yeah, we wish her well. And just before we bring in our guest this week, going back to the IPL fever all around young Suryavanshi, the 14-year-old who lit up the game for Rajasthan Royals, scoring a 35-ball 100 the other day and 11 sixes. Were you there for that, or were you on the plane back for that?
I was flying back, you know, and it was just an incredible story. It is, you know, India do produce young players. We only have to go back to Tendulkar, whatever. But this young lad, 14. What were you doing when you were 14? I mean, I know I wasn't getting a 135 balls against some of the great players in world cricket. Unbelievable, and it's something we've discussed. I did that Cricket in Mumbai documentary with Ravi Shastri, and he said the biggest impact of the IPL, if you think of Dhoni and where Dhoni came from, and now you look at this lad coming from Bihar, a state bordering sort of Nepal in the northeast of India, the IPL has taken the game to various parts of India that didn't produce or as much of the cricketers of note in the past, and they are doing now. But one thing I did know when I was out there, IPL fever, Af, is huge. It is literally sat by the pool and some bloke setting up his iPad to watch the IPL, going out in the evening to dinner and everyone on their back of their bikes with a phone, with a screen, with the IPL on. It is just IPL. And this will just add to it. This is just another wonderful story for that tournament, that it may be long, but it keeps producing these incredible stories.
Yeah, it might be longer too if some of the reports recently are to be believed. But yeah, fantastic story, young Suryavanshi, where talent meets opportunity is the DNA of that competition. And as you say, it's taking it to all corners of India, which is going to be a problem for the rest of the world, because you know they've got a depth of talent there that is unbelievable in any case. But obviously the sport gripping the nation, and if they start to exploit the talent that's available to its fullest extent, then there are going to be some serious cricketers coming down the pipeline from there. So well done to that young man, and good luck to him for the rest of his career, and a good time to bring in our guest. I don't know how he would have felt steaming in at a 14-year-old in a competitive game, but he's not at the IPL this year because he's injured. And we're going to chat to Mark Wood about his injury recovery and what comes next. How are you? How would you felt hurtling in to bowl at a 14-year-old? Have you seen him play? Have you seen bits of the highlights of his innings?
I have. You know, taking on the top bowlers in the world at 14. I don't know what I was doing at 14, but that would definitely not have been on my radar. I think there was a little bit. I played a club game a couple of years ago, and there was a young kid batting at 15, and I couldn't bowl at him because I was so frightened that you know, I could, you know, hurt him or something like that. Whereas this lad, it would have been the exact opposite. You know, right? That's it. Put the men back, 3 bouncers. Here we're going. I'm not holding back now. So, incredible, really. It's just what India need, really more depth. I don't think they've got enough. So, you know, start them at 14.
Now
they're under
you've got
14s are a good side now.
What, am I going to get a cease and desist legal notice from your fellow podcaster Miles Jupp here because we've kind of nabbed you for ours for half an hour?
Yeah, I think you're the only guy that Miles would be okay. I mean, for those that are listening don't know, Miles Jupp, the comedian, Mike Atherton is literally his favourite guy in the whole world, not just cricketer, but favourite guy. He was messaging me the other day that they'd been up to North Wales, him and his family, and his wife had a bit of a trip and a fall and banged her head. So, you know, in typical Miles fashion, he was going through concussion tests and read the months backwards, and she passed that test. And then the next one and the next one. He thought, right, I'll test her a little bit. Yeah, who's my favourite cricketer? And she said, Nasser Hussain. So I think he thought by that point she was critically insane. So off more serious injury than he thought originally. But yeah, you know, he's doing really well.
How are you doing? Because we've got you on to partly talk about you and your rehab from, you know, various operations that you have. How are you doing?
I'm all right. A bit frustrated. I think when I had that elbow injury, I wish I'd had the knee done then. I was crying out for it. I mean, this has been a process of a year and a half. You could see, you've seen Ath with me on the field with my knee heavily strapped and stuff. So I've played through it for a long time, but it just sort of got worse and worse. And eventually needed doing. It's just slow going with my other operations, my ankle, my elbow. After like sort of 2 to 4 weeks, you start to get going again. Whereas this one was 6 weeks now, and I've still just light steps. I'm walking around without crutches and stuff, but I've just started on the bike, so it's real slow. And as you can imagine, I don't like things doing things slowly, so it's been a bit frustrating. I've got a nice big scar on the inside of my leg.
But
Just
just
in the
explain
side.
exactly what they did with your knee.
Well, I had three for one, so I was expecting to go in and maybe have one of the things, but they ended up doing 3 things. I had my meniscus, my cartilage trimmed, the joint shaved, the bone, and then finally I had my MCL tightened. So I'm hoping that if I'm not bowling well, I can get the old Allen key out on the field and tighten it up a little bit more, maybe give us an extra couple mile an hour. But yeah, it was three in one really, and like I said, I've got a nice big scar on the inside. I told my son that I survived a bear attack, and of course, him being 5 years old, he had plenty of questions. Why? And eventually I said, well, because the porridge was too hot, and that wasn't a sufficient answer. So I had to just tell him the real story in the end. It was through cricket and stuff like that. So it's just been a bit frustrating time, really slow. But I'm pleased in the end I've getting it done. I'm fed up with having to sit here with you guys podcast and say, what's the injury this time? And that I put so much work in behind the scenes. I try not to be like that. But it's part and parcel, I guess, of being a fast bowler.
Going back, people might have forgotten when the injury happened. It was in that game against Afghanistan, crucial game you had to win. Was there a specific moment you felt it go, and also you went off and then you came back on? Do you think, you know your body, the captain has to manage you, it is a crucial must-win game, the balance of this is a serious injury to this is a game to win and I have to come back on and continue playing?
Yeah, I did feel it specifically on one ball. I think, like I mentioned, I'd had problems with it for about a year and a half. Up and down those Sundays, it was okay. Other days, it was really sore. And I became a little bit like Ledley King, the football. At one point, I wasn't training at all. I was just going from game to game, because that's all I could manage. That game specifically, I remember my knee sort of locking out, and I couldn't straighten, and the pain every time I was landing was quite severe. And of course, as a fast bowler, I was landing with a braced front leg. It wasn't like my leg was bent. So I was, every time I was landing, I was getting that sort of stab on the inside of my leg. And yeah, to answer your question, I think, I'm playing for England. It doesn't matter what game it is or how crucial the game is. I felt Joss needed 4 or 5 overs to make the overs count for other people. So I wasn't never going to not come back on if I could, unless I literally couldn't stand. I was going to come back on and offer myself if he needed us. I couldn't tell him that there would be the greatest quality 4 overs. Looking at the tournament, he was probably thinking, well, there'll not be much quality anyway. So he'd get out of his way he could. And just trying to, think of what the team needed at that point. Try and be brave and get out what I could.
Are you the world's worst patient? You said that you can't do things slowly. I can just imagine the torture that you must be going. What immediately afterwards? Presumably, just lying in bed with a thing on your knee to keep it moving. And kind of what's the process of rehab from here on in, and how frustrating do you get, and how do you fill your time?
Yeah. Again, great questions. I've done loads of things where I've just been laid up. I've got torture device here. This is what I've had on my leg, stretching my leg out and you tighten this valve and braces your leg more. So every time the physios were...
Would he always good on an audio podcast to show something that will go down well?
Yeah. So this device is a torture device that you screw it up and it tightens your leg and you move it in and out. Then I've had another machine to move it and stuff like that. So that was a bit boring and a bit horrendous. I went to Nasborough with my family the other day, and I give the Lord of Yorkshire a ring just to check that I was allowed in his county, Johnny Bairstow, now that he's captain. And randomly, half an hour later, he just turned up. I was like, "Oh, Johnny!" Yeah, right. He just made his way over. So yeah, there's not been loads going on. I mean, when I had my operation, they gave me like a DVD USB thing to watch the operation. I've definitely not watched that. I'm a bit squeamish
Oh.
anyway. But when I was under, there's been one time I've obviously took the video of us under anaesthetic, and every time I keep coming back with the same mental stuff. I'm trying to lick water like an Alsatian, or this time I was singing Bon Jovi, and yeah, just a bit. But they don't tell you until after, and then you sort of puzzle it together later, and you're like, "What is going on?" Terrible.
Come on, you can't answer that last question without mentioning the word Newcastle. Surely that must have
Yeah.
it must have lifted your spirits the last few months. Cup final, did you go? Have you been watching them? What's the Northeast like? You know, it must have been a great few months up there.
Yeah, Northeast's been a bit crazy. Everybody sort of still riding cloud nine. I went to the Barmy Army gala with Collie. Collie was very quiet on the way down, being a big Sunderland fan. So he wasn't best happy. But I think in general it's great for the Northeast that some success has happened up here, and for everybody. Sport is a huge part of the community, and cricket now starting, and I've been at Atherton a few times, the local cricket club, and everybody's back together. And I think for occasions like that, it's huge for this area of the country.
I know we joke, and I know you joke quite a bit. It's your way of coping, but mentally, how do you cope, and how down do you get? As I've just spoken with Ath there, I've been chatting with Ben Stokes this week, and he's another one that's having to go through all these injuries. How do you cope? Is it just something like it's part of being a cricketer, part of being a fast bowler? You get injured, or has it ever come to a stage where you've gone, you know what, Woody, my body's letting me down. Do I need to go through this all again? Do you ever doubt yourself?
100%. Without a doubt, I think you always have them questions in the back of your mind. Like you say, you cope with a bit of humour, you put a brave face on, but underneath it, you think, again, it's not so much the operation, because the operations aren't nice, but it's the bit after where you think, right, I've got to build it up again, I've got to be resilient again. And I've just watched Freddie Flintoff's documentary, and I thought it was fantastic. And there was something he said that resonated with me a lot, was when he's in that sort of rehab stage, he used to visualize bowling, and that is what I've done a lot myself when I'm in the treadmill in the cold, or you're running on the streets, or sort of as I'm running, I'm visualizing, right, thinking of that feeling of running in it, against Australia when we're away, or thinking about bowling in India when it's been tough, or you have a flashback to a past experience of, and that sort of is your motivation to think of, right, that's because I love the game, I love cricket. I would play for Atherton's second team if I could. I love playing cricket. I'm proud to play for England. So, when you're those dark times where you're thinking, look, do I want to go through this again? And I'm at the stage of my life, really, I'm mid-30s, and not much maybe left on my clock. I still feel I'm fit, and I still bowling fast, and if I can be an asset to the team, great. But, realistically, I know that I'm more close at the end than the beginning. So how much can my body take? How much can I put myself through? That's the big question. But at the minute, I'm not going to try, stop giving up yet.
If you can bear it, just imagine your body as a skeleton for a minute, and just go head to toe and talk us through. Can you remember every kind of semi-serious injury that you've had from top to bottom?
Yeah.
I mean, presumably the brain's all right, but you'll start with the shoulder or something.
No, skeleton was right as well.
This is a 45-minute podcast, by the way.
Mark Wood's Anatomy by Nasser. Right. I think, yeah, so I've had numerous shoulder jabs, of stress fracture on my back, torn my side about 4 times. So that's 2 knee operations, 2 elbow operations, 3 on my ankle. And I reckon, without an exaggeration, maybe 60 to 80 jabs in my ankle.
Wow.
And we see the same guys in London. It's fantastic. The guys are brilliant, and they reckon I'm in the top 3. Like, yeah,
that's a tale of woe and bad luck. But I was thinking that there is an element of good fortune to the time that you're playing, because if you're in a previous generation prior to central contracts, when none of this stuff would be looked after, really. If you were a fast bowler in the 60s or 70s, to a completely different generation, it would be even worse. That would
I don't think I would have been a professional cricketer.
no.
Yeah, not even England. I don't think I would have been a professional cricketer because the amount of, I've seen the boots they wear, the amount of care they get, how they were treated in terms of like little 1%ers like diets or, how they would play so much and have to keep their standards up so high. It's not like, maybe there's a bit more scrutiny now with more cameras and speed guns and things like that, but I still think back then, like, expected to bowl so much and like almost like the culture was, oh, come on, get on with it, like get out there again. That just wouldn't work for me. I wouldn't have survived that. So, not just playing for England, I don't think I would have been a professional cricketer. So, I mean, like we just mentioned with the tape there, the amount of tape that I go through, I'm like a mummy at times. So, yeah, but that's just the way it is.
Just listening to there, one thing I thought of actually, you go through all that, but you still come back at high speed. Some bowlers, when they go through a string of injuries, there's a drop off in pace. But every time you come back after about a month, you put on the speed gun or the ticker on the sky thing, and you're up at 95 mile an hour. So you do recover to full speed. My question is there something specific about the way you bowl that leads to these injuries? You talk about the brace front leg. Has the longer run up, the shorter run up? Have you looked at the way you bowl that leads to injuries, or is it just the fact of being a fast bowler?
No, I've looked at it. Of course, you don't want to keep getting injured. So I did a lot of work with Kevin Shine around the 2016 to 2019 mark of trying to land with my front foot straighter to take the pressure off my ankle. But on the speed gun, I couldn't get above 75 to 76 mile an hour just because my hip couldn't come through. So that my front foot sort of splayed out and it allows my back hip to fire through quickly and all that delay on that side. So I've done so much of that sort of stuff where at times you just have to accept it. Around the wicket work I did with Jimmy Anderson where I changed the angle of the run-up so it meant I could go in a straighter line, again helping with sort of injury and direction of the ball and pace. And I think I come back quicker because I have periods of time off. So actually, freshness, I think, throughout the series, if you probably look, by the end of the last test match, my paces are lower because it takes it out of us. And I'm the exact opposite of someone like a Chris Woakes who will want time to bowl and bowl and bowl. And actually, he gets better and better and better. Whereas for someone like myself, couple of training sessions at full intensity, I think, right, I'm ready. And then it's sort of like I have to manage myself through. And what McCullum has done with me is sort of pick and choose games. In India, it was a 5-test series and I played 1, 3 and 5. And it gave me a chance to keep my speed up because I was having those breaks in between. And the one that I'm probably most proud of in my career was Australia away last time. I played 4 out of the 5 tests. I managed to maintain my speed throughout, and by the last test, it was my best figures. I managed to get 5 wickets in that last test. So that to me said that my fitness, the way I managed myself and looked after myself, I was doing the right things, and mentally shattered by the end of that. But I actually know that I can do it. And my injury record since I've lengthened my run up has actually been better. I've played a lot more. My speeds have been higher, more consistent. So I am pleased with that. But there is times where I'm going to get injured, and that is annoying because, like I say, you put in this hard work, but you just have to accept it, I guess. I'm not built like a tank, am I? Like you look at Potsy, and he's the most robust tank ever.
Yeah.
I'm not built like that. You said skeleton before. I mean, that's a fair reflection, actually.
That's a good point. I mean, some obviously bowlers are just built for it a bit more. I always look at your, ankles and shins and remind me of a kind of finely tuned racehorse, very, very thin. And I just look at the forces going through it when your feet land and wince a little bit. Throw it forward then. I mean, July, is it when you're going to start gently getting
the
back
aim,
into
yeah.
it?
That's the aim. I would hope to try and play a couple of games in July for Durham and then put myself forward for the England stuff. But that's a long way away to look forward so much and say that's definitely what I'm going to get to. Of course, on a rehab road, it's never a flat, straight line, like an upward curve. There's bumps in it. So I'm still aiming for a test or two at the end of that India series if I can get my body in a good place. But at the minute, that's quite a long way off to give a definite answer.
Can we broaden it out a little bit? Nasser's just been to India and has chatted at length with Ben Stokes. Just tell us a little bit about playing under Ben Stokes and Brendan McCullum, because you've been around a long time now. You know Spring Chicken. You've been through a few captains and coaches and different regimes. Just tell us a little bit about this particular regime that you're playing under.
But I really enjoy it. I think firstly, like great sort of man management, great for people in general. I really like the way that they treat everybody differently and they try and find a common ground. I think with McCullum, you know, he has a sort of perspective away from the game. He doesn't just think of the game every 2 seconds. He thinks about other things and life decisions and things there, which is great. Stokesy I've known for a long time. The best thing for me with him is sometimes I feel personally Stokesy can, you know, he can get intense. He can see the red mist. He's so competitive. He's in the battle. And just by having a bit of a laugh and a joke with him, I can just pull him back. I mean, there's times when you've got to know when and how far you can push him. I mean, last year when he was captain, he was bowling. I was at mid-off and I said, look, I've got a suggestion, but you can tell us where to go if you don't. And he just turned and looked at us, and I knew within 1 second what was going to come out of his mouth. And I just turned around quickly, but back to mid-off. Thought I'm not going to make the suggestion, but he's been in good form. I've seen him at Durham a few times. He's, like Nas said, he's looking really fit. He's got a purple car at the minute, so I'm not sure if that's an indication that he's more like the Joker or if he's thinking royalty now that he's England captain. So I've been giving him some stick about that, but yeah, he's great to play for, and because I know him so well, I tell you what, I think they do very good. That they're not over analytical, but on the field they're very clear. Stokesy wants you to buy into whatever. So if a conversation between me and him, for example, it could be, we're changing up, we're going to go with the bouncer plan. If it doesn't work for 2 balls, that doesn't mean we change it. He wants it to be clear, we're sticking with this. This is how we're playing this phase of the game. Or he might come on and say, get me a wicket, do something different, be the man. He knows how to talk to you in those moments. He's very clear about what he wants and what he expects. And because he sort of leads the way naturally, sometimes he doesn't have to say very much. He's 100% on everything he does. And you think, well, if I'm not giving what he's given, then, you know, I'm not pulling my weight here. So he's very honest and clear with his thinking.
On the back of that, does he need help with himself? It is so obvious England are a better side with him playing the full role as an all-rounder and being England captain. I heard after his latest injury, oh, good luck telling Ben Stokes not to bowl that extra over. You know, he gives everything 120%. There's no way you can tell Stokes not to bowl. Should you be at mid-off, tapping him on the shoulder going, Stokesy, this is now the 6th in the spell, 7th in the spell. There's this game to win, but there's also the future. We need you to look after yourself and stay on the park.
Yeah, it's difficult because he's so competitive and so driven, and, you know, he takes on his own shoulders because he wants to be the man. He wants to lead from the front. So I get it from his point of view. But I think there's probably 2 or 3 in the team that definitely could have a word with him. I think obviously McCullum, the coach. I think Rudy, they've got a very close relationship. Root being an ex-captain, and, you know, standing first slip and just the nature of their relationship. I don't think Stokesy would take it the wrong way if Rudy said, look, come on, mate, it's time to have a break here. So I think there's 2 or 3 in the team could definitely. I think the environment is that everybody can speak up, but I think that's, you know, a cliched line that everybody gives, that, oh, it's all about the team and everybody can speak. I think when you've got someone like Stokesy who's got aura and he's got that presence about him, that's probably realistically, I would say 2 or 3 lads I feel would feel comfortable to go out and say, come on, wind it in. And if he goes back at you, they'd still stand up and say, no, you're not doing the right thing for us here. So I think definitely sort of coach McCullum, Root, who's got a great relationship with him, maybe a couple more of the senior players or coaches staff, I definitely think could say to him, but whether he listens or not, that's a different story.
Can I ask about narrative that began to build a little bit in India during the one-day series that preceded the Champions Trophy? This idea that England don't practice hard enough, don't train hard enough, and it ties in a little bit, I suppose, around, you know, the impression sometimes that is given, rightly or wrongly, that the team, and this is sometimes what the players say, and I know what the players are trying to say about not caring about results. It's about you're trying to concentrate on the process rather than the end results. But that sometimes gets translated or mistranslated into we don't care about results. Well, I mean, is that frustrating? Well, first of all, tackle the question that England don't train or practice hard.
I think this whole thing makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable. I'm not going to lie. I think the reason that I'm so uncomfortable with it is because it's so far from the truth, and I think sometimes we've been so how can I say this? Naive, a bit dumb in the things that we say in the press. Like we'll say things in the dressing room. And I think, right, that's in the dressing room. That should stay there. And then we come out the press and we say things that have like maybe a off the cuff one line that like a group of lads have been talking about, and all of a sudden it's in the press, and it makes us look like like a bit bigger, big Billy Big Boots, a bit bigger than what like above what station. I don't particularly like that. I think we've got to be respectful, and I tell you one thing that does bother us about the media. I'm not saying that you two guys have done this, but this narrative about golf. I don't play golf. I don't like it. That's not a game for me. I know the lads enjoy it, and it's that time off. But like at times, it's almost as if like the golf's more important, and that is not true at all. I cannot stress that enough. That when we're at training, especially like under Stokes, McCullum, it'll be different maybe under the one-day regime now that it's changed. I don't know how that's going to work, but that is when we train hard, and I think it's about being sensible. Sometimes if it's 35 degrees in Pakistan, you're not going to charge in for 8 overs spell the day before a game, or like I mentioned before, I couldn't train with my knee well in India in that one-day series. And I get that it's leveled that way, but sometimes there's a bit of common sense. I think India only trained one more day than we did. Like, it was travel, train, play, travel, train, play, travel, train, play. And the 50-over games could take a lot out of you. The travel days in India, they're hectic. It's not like you just get on a plane and then you're there. It's like there's the Indian team security and everything that they've got to go through. So it's the long days. Then the next day, it's often like the lads that haven't played, so they will then go to the ground, or they might do something, or it might just be a day to just like, look, it's been a tough few days. Let's just get our head around, relaxing, do what you want to do. It's the lads don't take it for granted that you're playing for England. This narrative that we'll go and play golf. This is the best gig in the world, is the quotes that's thrown out there. That I can understand people's frustration with it, but I'm telling you that people genuinely care and genuinely work hard. Do you think I didn't want to keep my spot in the England team? Like, what am I going to do? I'll just go on a holiday and I'll play the odd game, and like I'm there to win for England. Like that is and that's what makes me feel uncomfortable, is this like narrative that we don't care. Like, it hurts when we get beat. Nobody likes getting beat. And I think the quotes that come out from the team sometimes, we could definitely improve that, because it doesn't then come across that way, and of how people are truly feeling.
And England's team.
I just brought the tone down a little bit.
No. I actually, I mean, I think people, first of all, will appreciate the honesty there, and will be fascinated to hear that. Because as you
it's
say,
not like I'm kicking off with the other players. It's not like I'm going, you shouldn't have said that in the interview. I think you want people to be themselves and have personality and be honest with, like, you guys. If you ask the questions, you want to be honest and tell the truth. But like this whole like, oh well, as long as you're good at golf, you'll get picked in the team. That's them kind of comments wind me up.
Well, the team is about to be picked actually for the first test. I think it's being announced Friday. One of the players who has had
I think Justin Rose has got a good chance.
He's in good nick. Rory will get in. Well, tell us a little bit about Ben McKinney. I don't know. He might not get in this first test squad because it looks like, it'll be Duckett and Crawley, whatever. But he's obviously somebody who is being talked about. He's been on the Lions. He looks like he's going to be one of those pushing to get in if one of the openers, has a collapse in form or something. I mean, he's Durham boy. Just tell us a little bit about him. and what you think about him, both his character and his cricket.
Very down to earth lad. Just a normal northeast lad. Someone that I feel has got good roots in him. Someone that I feel. I mean, he's still young, but he's got a good head on his shoulders, and I think from just watching him, he scored runs in Australia. He did well in the training camp in South Africa while I was there. He's getting runs at Chesley Street. So at different conditions he's coming up against, and he's still, doing the business, which is the sign of a good player. I think obviously the way that he plays, he's a very aggressive player. That would suit, I guess, the model that England like to have. Again, he's very tall, so you look at the advantages of having Crawley and Duckett and their height advantages and stuff. So he comes out the ball, and where length balls, he sort of stands on top of the bounce and can carve it through the offside. I mean, the thing that I would say maybe he has to work on, and this is one of the coaches at Durham told me this, was that sometimes he gets caught a lot in front of the wicket. So I think 40% or something of his dismissals are in front of the bat. So I think when he comes up against a sort of where someone can either work him out or he goes through a tough patch of form, does he continue the way he plays? I think that's when you test his characters, will he continue to get through that, or will he have to adapt and change? But I think he's got a lot of tools there to be successful. Everything that you would look at, in a way, I don't want to tout it too big, but the way that he sort of stands and hits through the line is a bit Trescothic, like where he'll not exactly get his foot to the pitch of the ball, but he's got good hand-eye and he can open up that
He's
offside.
a little bit similar to Alex Lees, isn't he? And he has that high backlift, and he kind of turns and peers at his backlift just to check it's right before the bowler bowls.
Well, maybe he's getting that from Leesy himself.
Yeah.
I don't know. Often when you're playing with people that are older, you might look up to, that you can copy, or you think that might work for my game. So maybe he's picked that up from him. But he certainly, one for the future. I don't know if he'll, get in this year or whatever. What the England's thinking is, they might, throw him in to give him a chance. But with big games coming up, I would certainly, and this is just my opinion, you guys can disagree, but I would certainly try and stick with Zak. I think with county cricket in general, I haven't watched loads. I've seen some highlights, but it's very hard to get a read on people with stats and things. When you say, oh, well, he's averaging this, or he's averaging this with the ball. I've watched Durham's highlights in 3 games. They've played on 2 absolute flatbeds. There's no pace in it, there's no bounce. Then they go to Worcester, and it seems everywhere. So it skews stats all over the place. You can play on one that nips all over the place early April, or you can play on one that's slow and low and hard work. So from Zak's point of view, I just think of how I feel when I bowl at Zak, and the way he plays fast bowling, the way that if you miss, he punishes you. I would back Zak. I like the combination of Zak being right hand, ducky left hand, right, tall and short. And I think back to things like the 180 he got against Australia. If you're a bowler, you'll fear Zak in some way. If he's on, he doesn't take a backward step against Australia. And against Australians, their sort of alpha culture where they want to be on top of you, and he doesn't take a backward step. So I would invest in him. You guys could have a total different opinion to me, but for me, I think Zak's a proper player.
So I was just going to mention that, given the injuries, obviously, to Woody and others, it might be a chance for Sam Cook, your lad from Essex, and it'd be a good story, that, because quite hard as a medium pace seaman swing bowler, having to wait behind Anderson, Broad, and Wokes, who obviously lord it with the Duke's ball in England. But he's got an incredible record, Sam Cook. 300 odd wickets, about 19, and if he gets in that squad, he'll be 27, and it's a good example for the strivers and the kind of latecomers or the late developers, really. Nas.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were asking Woody. So can I just get this right? No, I just want to get this right. Woody spoke about Zak Crawley, the batter, and you want me to speak about Sam Cook, the bowler?
No, I just thought
you might be the wrong way around.
I just thought, given you're from Chelsea, you sat there.
I like Sam Cook.
I thought you might have something to say.
Does well. He sets his wrist. I like the angle of his run. He just has his fingers slightly apart for that wobble seam delivery. I mean, what do I know? Woody, what do you
I'll-
think of Sam
I'll
Cook? the
jump in.
bowler?
I'll jump in. I like him. I like him a lot. I think it depends on England's makeup of the team, and what they want to go with. Do they want to go with obviously more these fast bowlers, or because and if that's the case, I think there'd be room for Wokes and Cook to bounce off each other a bit like Broad Anderson. Obviously Wokes has lots of experience. And he bats and he offers that. So I think it would be a good case to try them together and see if they can. But if England want to go purely fast bowling, and they're going to give Cook the nod, then I think he probably deserves a chance at some point. I mean, he's backed up all these numbers in county cricket. If you look at sort of someone like Ollie Robb, who was doing really well in county cricket, he got a go and did really well in national cricket. So I think especially in England, that would be the time to say, look, can he step up to this level? I'm sure that he can. A great average, someone that very, very rarely misses his length, and might be, sometimes he might change his line, but from watching him, stump to stump, gets close into the stumps, and it's almost just like he batters away at that length where he's constantly asking you a question with this sort of wobble seam where you think, well, what's he going to do? Is he going to nip away? Is he going to nip in? And the main strength I feel he has is that mentally for a batsman, he's at you all the time. He's constantly asking you. There's no like free overs where you think, oh, this is going to be a big over, or we could try and manipulate him here. You've just got to ask someone like a Root who will use these crease, he'll walk at people, and he struggled against Cook. So I think he's just sort of relentless at grinding people down and trying to get you to make the mistake.
Anyone else in bowling that over the last few years? I know you don't play that much domestic cricket, but people just talk about or whispers, or why haven't we seen this lad? I mean, someone who has played, obviously, who's coming back from injury. Rob Key was impressed with Josh Tongue. Who else, just around the traps, has impressed you over the years?
Well, I wouldn't say over the years. I would say more recently. The one that I've been hearing great reports about is Sonny Baker, the fast bowler. From his reports of, again, speaking to Freddie and Neil Killeen and stuff in Australia, was that he looked pretty sharp, raw, but definitely some. I think sometimes you get cricketers where you just say there's something about them, and from what I've heard about him is that, maybe not the finished article yet, but can bowl quickly and takes wickets, and that's a great skill to have. Is that naturally someone like and he. Apart from the usual Tongue, Stone, the lads that are in, like, to have another one coming through, is great for English cricket, and someone I think that lad, from what I hear, is going to have a big future.
One name we haven't mentioned is Jofra Archer. He's bowling rockets at the moment. He started slowly in the IPL, but recently the speed gun is up and it's coming out nicely. Tell us the difference between bowling 4 overs in an IPL game to coming back for your third spell in Adelaide, and how do England get from that starting point to that end point? How do you manage someone like Jofra Archer between now and the Ashes? Wood's injured, Stone's injured, Cass is injured at the moment. There are a list of fast bowling injuries. How do we try and get Jofra Archer back in Test match cricket?
Well, you just said that. I think if the ECB could have done it, I think the Zimbabwe test would have been an obvious one for him to play. If he's fit, he's bowling quick. He's had workloads, as the ECB computer system, or the great word that everyone likes to use, workloads. He's had workloads under his belt. So actually, you'd say from a body point of view, he's in rhythm. He's playing. It shouldn't be a massive spike if he went to Test cricket. So you'd think that Zimbabwe test would have been a good test, that he might not have to bowl. In May, you're hoping it might nip around a little bit. You're hoping that in a one-off test, he could get through one without having to back up a series. So that might have been a good one for him to play. But obviously, if the IBL's still going, I don't know if he'll play that game or not. So it might be a case.
Like he might play the 2A fixtures against, or one of the two. There's
right. So that's where. Yes, that's what he's. If you can get him from there to then maybe 1 or 2 of the tests against India, and then you say, right, he's ready for Australia for the big test. I think when you mentioned about spells, I think there's a couple of points. I think one, as a fast bowler, you've got to want to do it. You've got to say, look, this is my role in the team. By the third spell, I might be tired, but I'm going to charge in and give it everything I've got again. I'm sure Stokes will, be pushing for that. So one, I think you've got to want to do that for the team, and understand that's your role. 2, I think you've got to put in the work behind the scenes, which I'm sure that he's doing and he will do, in terms of a fitness point of view and looking after himself with physios, getting some extra miles into his legs, running in the Caribbean on the beach or whatever he's going to do there, or if he's back in England. And then probably, lastly, to get to that sort of third spell, I think it's probably he's going to have to be managed well by the captain and the coach in terms of which games he plays, which spells he bowls in. Right, we need a wicket, 3 overs, short and sharp, bowl it quickly, make something happen. Not like a 9-over spell or like no good in bowling 7 overs in his first spell, 6 overs in his second spell, and then you're saying, right, third spell, I need you to crank this up to 93, 94, what he's 13 deep and tired and Adelaide in the heat. So I think it's a combination of all them things will get him ready for Australia. But great to see that he's bowling well, fast. And like I say, with the stocks coming through, it's not just the fast bowlers, but I feel like generally in England at the minute in the test team, there's plenty of options to mix and match seamers.
And before we let you go, I mean, I guess once the team is announced and that they all gather at Trent Bridge for that first test, that's when you'll kind of really miss it. What are the next few weeks hold? And will you be invited to go to the test match, and will you carry your rehab through the England physios at these games, or do you stay away from it and just do your own thing for the next month or two?
A bit of both. I think I will find it difficult, but I like to watch when my mates are playing and when England's playing, I like to see how they're getting on. So I will watch the test match. The other thing is I'm going to do a little bit of coaching with Flintoff. I think it's been a time where we're having this period off where I've wanted to try my hand with the media, with you guys. I want to try coaching, see after cricket what I'd be good at or what I would enjoy. So I'm going to do some of the one of the England Lions games and one of the first class 11 games. So try and help out with some coaching there, see if I'm natural, see if I'm any good, and see if I enjoy it, and just try and give some help if I can. I think I spoke to Stokes at Durham the other day, and he said, "Oh, I'm going to be playing in one of those games." I said, "Well, I'm going to be a coach, so no backlit. I want it strictly professional."
Well, out of coaching and going into the media, definitely do the coaching. Would you?
It's been great to have you on. It goes without saying, I think, that anytime you're bored and want to come back on the podcast, as long as you ring Miles first and run it by him,
Yeah, get the okay.
Get the okay. You're welcome back on our podcast anytime.
Thanks,
for
guys.
coming on. All the best with the recovery. Obviously, we wish you well and want to see you back steaming in for England at the back end of that India series and then in the Ashes.
Thanks. Cheers, lads.
Cheers, Woody.